Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're hitting the streets of San Francisco to explore the high-octane world of Bullitt, 1968, a groundbreaking action thriller that redefined car chases in cinema. Starring the legendary Steve McQueen as the cool and determined detective Frank Bullitt, this film is more than just a police procedural. It's a masterclass in style, suspense, and adrenaline-pumping action. Stick around as we uncover 20 things you never knew about this cinematic masterpiece. Bullitt centers on Detective Frank Bullitt, a no-nonsense San Francisco cop tasked with protecting a mob informant scheduled to testify against a powerful crime syndicate. When the informant is murdered under mysterious circumstances, Bullitt is pulled into a high-stakes investigation that pits him against corrupt politicians, dangerous criminals, and his own department. Determined to uncover the truth, he risks his career and his life, culminating in an unforgettable car chase through the steep hills of San Francisco and a tense showdown at the airport. One of the most debated aspects of Bullitt is the iconic car chase scene, which has left fans speculating for decades. Some reports suggest that Steve McQueen, the film's star, shared the driving duties with stunt driver Bud Eakins. Supposedly, you can tell who's behind the wheel based on the rearview mirror. When McQueen drives, the mirror is tilted to reflect his face. When Eakins drives, it's conveniently angled away to hide his. However, cinematographer William A. Fraker disputed this, claiming McQueen performed nearly all the driving himself except for the final crash into the gas station. This debate only adds to the mystique surrounding the film, cementing McQueen's legacy as both an actor and a daredevil. Steve McQueen's unrelenting drive for authenticity in Bullitt was more than just a professional commitment. It was personal. After publicly admitting that he hadn't performed the iconic motorcycle jump in The Great Escape, 1963, a stunt many fans assumed was his, McQueen felt he had something to prove, not just to audiences but to himself. Bullitt became his stage for redemption, and McQueen seized the opportunity with characteristic determination and grit. During the filming of the legendary high-speed car chase, McQueen made it clear that he wanted to be behind the wheel as much as possible. Despite the inherent risks of driving at breakneck speeds through San Francisco's steep and narrow streets, he insisted on performing the majority of his own stunts. This decision wasn't just about pride. It was about creating an experience that felt raw and authentic for viewers. McQueen believed that audiences could feel the difference when the actor was truly immersed in the action, and he was right. His efforts paid off spectacularly. The sight of McQueen gripping the wheel of the 1968 Ford Mustang as it tore through the city's hills didn't just look real, it was real. This sense of immediacy and danger elevated the car chase into a cinematic masterpiece. Fans and critics alike praised McQueen for his fearlessness, with many calling his performance groundbreaking. The media at the time was quick to celebrate McQueen's daring approach. Headlines hailed him as Hollywood's king of cool, and magazines lauded his dedication to realism. Moviegoers were equally captivated, with many expressing awe at how Bullitt brought them closer to the action than ever before. Fans who had doubted McQueen's commitment after The Great Escape were silenced, and his reputation as a true action star was solidified. On social media platforms and forums today, fans still discuss McQueen's determination, with some even debating whether modern actors could match his hands-on approach. Many cite his work in Bullitt as the gold standard of action performances, proving that authenticity and effort can leave an enduring legacy. McQueen didn't just act in Bullitt, he lived it, and audiences have been feeling the impact ever since. The epic car chase pitted two automotive powerhouses against each other, a 1968 Ford Mustang 390 GT Fastback and a 1968 Dodge Charger 440 Magnum. While the Mustang is the hero car of the film, the Charger slightly outperformed it on paper with a quarter-mile time of 13.6 seconds compared to the Mustang's 13.8 seconds. These stats might seem like small details, but for car enthusiasts, they highlight just how perfectly matched these two vehicles were, making the chase as thrilling as it was believable. Before roaring through the streets of San Francisco, both the Mustangs and Chargers were modified by legendary auto racer Max Balchowski. Known for his expertise in building high-performance cars, Balchowski ensured that each vehicle could handle the grueling high-speed sequences required for the film. His work didn't just make the cars faster, it made them capable of surviving the relentless abuse they endured during filming, from hairpin turns to heart-stopping jumps. While the cars were the stars of the chase, not all of them survived. After production wrapped, both Chargers and one of the Mustangs were scrapped. However, the second Mustang, which was in better condition, found a second life. It was purchased by a Warner Brothers employee and later changed hands several times before being rediscovered in 1980. In 2020, this piece of cinematic history was auctioned off for a jaw-dropping $3.4 million, proving that its legacy remains as valuable as ever. Believe it or not, the legendary car chase in Bullitt, the very scene that redefined action cinema, wasn't even part of the original script. Director Peter Yates, known for his knack for creating gripping action sequences, saw the potential to include something extraordinary. Drawing inspiration from the car chase in his previous film, Robbery, 1967, Yates proposed adding one to Bullitt. The result? A 10-minute thrill ride through the streets of San Francisco that became one of the most iconic moments in film history. This wasn't just a simple addition. It was a bold creative choice that elevated Bullitt from a solid detective story to a groundbreaking cinematic experience. Yates envisioned the streets of San Francisco as the perfect stage for the chase, with its steep hills, tight corners, and dramatic cityscapes providing a natural sense of danger and excitement. The setting became just as much a character in the scene as the drivers or the cars themselves. The chase wasn't flashy in the way modern audiences might expect. There were no over-the-top stunts or CGI enhancements. Instead, it relied on raw speed, skillful driving, and the incredible power of the cars involved. The realistic pacing and relentless tension kept viewers on the edge of their seats, as if they were right there in the passenger seat with Steve McQueen. The addition of the chase scene wasn't just a risk. It was a gamble that paid off in ways no one could have predicted. Critics and audiences were blown away by the sequence, praising its intensity and innovation. It became the benchmark for all future car chases in film, influencing everything from The French Connection to Baby Driver. Fans of Bullitt often cite the chase as the reason they fell in love with the film. Even today, online forums and social media are filled with discussions dissecting every frame of the scene, from the roaring engines to the iconic reverse burnout. The fact that this unforgettable moment almost didn't exist only adds to its legendary status. Another decision that elevated the chase scene's intensity was composer Lalo Schifrin's suggestion to omit a musical score. Instead of traditional background music, audiences were immersed in the raw, visceral sounds of roaring engines, screeching tires, and crunching metal. This choice heightened the realism and allowed the audience to feel every gear shift and high-speed turn, as if they were in the driver's seat. Sometimes accidents on set lead to movie magic. During the chase, Steve McQueen missed a turn, forcing him to slam the car into reverse before tearing off again. Director Peter Yates loved the authenticity of the moment so much that he decided to keep it in the final cut. This happy accident became one of the scene's standout moments, adding to its raw, unpolished feel. The film's climactic explosion at the gas station was almost a disaster, literally. A car rigged with dummies veered off its intended track, triggering the explosion earlier than planned. Thankfully, editor Frank Keller salvaged the footage in post-production, creating a seamless sequence that felt deliberate rather than chaotic. This moment showcased the skill and creativity of the film's behind-the-scenes team. Frank Keller's work on Bullitt wasn't just editing. It was a masterstroke that redefined how action films were crafted and experienced. His meticulous approach turned what could have been a routine sequence into an edge-of-your-seat thrill ride. Keller's ability to balance the high-octane car chases with quieter, tension-filled moments elevated the entire film, creating a rhythm that kept audiences completely hooked from start to finish. It's no surprise that Keller's groundbreaking work earned him the Academy Award for Best Film Editing in 1969. At the time, awards for editing often went to films with sprawling epic storylines. But Bullitt proved that tightly crafted, adrenaline-fueled sequences could hold just as much artistic merit. Keller's win wasn't just a personal triumph, it was a watershed moment for the action genre, validating the craftsmanship behind high-intensity scenes. Beyond the Oscar, Bullitt also received a nomination for Best Sound at the same ceremony. While it ultimately lost to Oliver, the sound design, particularly during the car chase, was revolutionary for its time. The decision to let the raw engine noises dominate the soundscape was a bold choice that amplified the realism of the film. While Keller didn't handle sound directly, his editing choices worked in harmony with the film's auditory elements, creating a cohesive sensory experience that set the bar for future action films. Even decades later, fans continue to marvel at how Bullitt remains as gripping as ever. Film enthusiasts often discuss Keller's editing as the unsung hero of the movie, pointing out details like the precise timing of every cut during the car chase or the way the tension ebbs and flows throughout the narrative. For many, Bullitt isn't just a film, it's a masterclass in how editing can elevate a story, and Frank Keller is the architect of that lesson. In the world of cinema, where the spotlight often shines on actors and directors, Keller's work reminds us that behind every great film is a visionary editor whose craft transforms raw footage into unforgettable art. Frank Keller didn't just edit Bullitt, he shaped its identity, and his influence continues to resonate with every roar of an engine on the big screen. The Bullitt chase redefined how Hollywood approached action sequences. Rather than relying on flashy effects, it focused on raw skill, precision, and adrenaline-pumping realism. This approach inspired countless directors and became a blueprint for creating compelling, grounded action scenes. Decades later, its influence can still be felt in films like The French Connection and Baby Driver. The origins of Bullitt lie in Robert L. Fish's novel Mute Witness, but the transition from page to screen involves some major transformations. In the novel, the protagonist was a Boston cop with an unusual penchant for ice cream and a reputation that leaned more toward quirky than competent. While this character may have worked well in the literary world, the filmmakers saw an opportunity to create someone with more grit and depth, someone who could carry the weight of an action-packed thriller on his shoulders. Enter Frank Bullitt, the reimagined detective brought to life by Steve McQueen. Moving the setting from Boston to San Francisco was a strategic choice, allowing the film to take full advantage of the city's dramatic hills and urban energy. The transformation didn't stop there. Gone was the bumbling cop with an amusing ice cream obsession, replaced instead by a no-nonsense detective who exuded confidence, resourcefulness, and a brooding intensity. This new version of Bullitt was cool, capable, and undeniably magnetic, a perfect fit for McQueen's on-screen persona. The decision to reshape the protagonist wasn't just about making the character more cinematic. It was about aligning the story with the film's tone. The novel's lighter, almost whimsical portrayal of law enforcement wouldn't have meshed with the gritty realism the filmmakers aimed to achieve. By turning Bullitt into a tough, by-the-book San Francisco cop, they added a sharper edge to the story, one that elevated it from a straightforward adaptation into a genre-defining film. Fans of the movie have often pointed out how perfectly McQueen embodied this updated version of Bullitt. His quiet determination and understated charisma gave the character a sense of realism and relatability, while his physicality and willingness to dive into the action made him a believable hero. The choice to distance the film from its literary roots allowed McQueen to shine, turning Frank Bullitt into one of the most iconic detectives in cinematic history. Even today, Bullitt serves as a case study in how adapting a novel doesn't mean being constrained by it. Instead, it's an example of how filmmakers can take the essence of a story and transform it into something that not only works on screen, but leaves an enduring legacy. By reimagining Mute Witness into a gritty San Francisco crime drama, the creators didn't just adapt a novel, they redefined what a crime thriller could be. One of the most intriguing what-ifs in Hollywood history lies in the casting of Frank Bullitt. Believe it or not, Steve McQueen wasn't the original choice for the role. The producers initially envisioned the legendary Spencer Tracy, a towering figure of classic cinema, known for his commanding screen presence and undeniable charm. Tracy's portrayal would have undoubtedly brought a sense of gravitas to the character, potentially creating a more traditional detective archetype. However, fate had other plans. Tracy's untimely passing in 1967 left the filmmakers searching for a new lead, one who could carry the weight of the film and redefine what a detective could be on screen. That's where Steve McQueen came in. His casting wasn't just a shift in star power, it was a transformation of the character itself. McQueen's portrayal of Frank Bullitt was a departure from the classic, by-the-book detective archetype that Tracy might have embodied. Instead, McQueen brought a quiet, rebellious energy to the role. His Bullitt wasn't just a cop, he was a symbol of a changing era, someone who challenged authority, followed his own instincts, and didn't care much for bureaucracy. This anti-establishment tone resonated with audiences in the late 1960s, reflecting the cultural shifts happening at the time. By taking a more understated approach, McQueen made Bullitt a man of action rather than words. His performance exuded cool confidence, with moments of intense focus that kept audiences glued to the screen. Whether he was walking through a crime scene or gripping the wheel of his 1968 Mustang, McQueen's Bullitt felt real, relatable, and dangerously unpredictable. This wasn't just a detective solving a case. This was a man taking on a corrupt system, driven by a personal code of honor. Even the decision to tone down the character's dialogue and rely on McQueen's physicality and expressions added to the film's impact. The minimalist approach allowed McQueen to craft a character who didn't need to explain himself. His actions spoke louder than words, and audiences loved him for it. In retrospect, Spencer Tracy's loss became Steve McQueen's gain, and Bullitt gained a legacy-defining performance that elevated it to iconic status. The role didn't just cement McQueen as the king of cool, it redefined what a cinematic detective could be, setting the stage for countless anti-hero cops in the decades that followed. Steve McQueen found real-life inspiration for his portrayal of Frank Bullitt in San Francisco, Homicide Inspector Dave Toschi. Known for his sharp detective skills and signature shoulder holster, Toschi was the real deal. In fact, Toschi's reputation would later grow when he worked on the infamous Zodiac case. McQueen mirrored Toshi's style and demeanor, adding a layer of authenticity to Bullitt's character. It's no wonder that the detective became a cultural icon. To ensure his performance was as realistic as possible, Steve McQueen spent time shadowing police officers on ride-alongs. During one memorable experience, the officers tested McQueen by taking him to a morgue. Rather than flinching or showing discomfort, McQueen calmly ate an apple, earning the respect of the officers. This anecdote became legendary, perfectly capturing McQueen's unflappable demeanor and commitment to his craft. Robert Vaughn, who played the ambitious politician Walter Chalmers, initially had serious doubts about the script. He reportedly described it as plotless and nonsensical. However, Steve McQueen personally convinced him to stay, offering Vaughn a substantial paycheck and a pivotal role. In the end, Vaughn turned in one of his most memorable performances, perfectly capturing the slick and manipulative nature of Chalmers. The restaurant scene in Bullitt featured a live jazz performance by the band Meridian West. McQueen had discovered the group while dining at the Trident, a well-known San Francisco restaurant. He was so impressed by their music that he insisted on including them in the film. This small detail added an authentic touch to the scene, while also showcasing McQueen's personal taste in music. Bullitt broke new ground by taking full advantage of its San Francisco setting. At the time, the city wasn't a popular filming location, but Mayor Joseph L. Alioto gave the crew unprecedented access. They shut down major streets for the car chase, filmed at San Francisco International Airport, and even used parts of a hospital for key scenes. This decision not only made the city a character in its own right, but also set the standard for location shooting in future films. It's impossible to talk about Bullitt without delving into one of its most lasting legacies, Steve McQueen's timeless sense of style. While the film is celebrated for its gripping car chases and groundbreaking realism, McQueen's wardrobe as Frank Bullitt became just as iconic, setting the standard for effortless cool, both on and off screen. The look was deceptively simple: desert boots, a blue turtleneck, a trench coat, and a brown tweed jacket with elbow patches. Yet, this combination struck a chord with audiences, creating a fashion phenomenon. McQueen's style in Bullitt wasn't just about what he wore, it was about how he wore it. His understated confidence and rugged masculinity elevated the ensemble from ordinary to legendary, making it an enduring symbol of casual sophistication. The wardrobe wasn't chosen at random. Costume designer Theodora Van Runkel understood that Frank Bullitt wasn't just any detective. He was a man who stood apart from the crowd, someone who broke the rules without making a big show of it. The clothes reflected his character, functional, unfussy, and undeniably sharp. They also perfectly complemented McQueen's on-screen presence, emphasizing his natural charisma without overshadowing it. His trench coat and tweed jacket became staples in men's wardrobes, while desert boots experienced a surge in popularity. The blue turtleneck, once considered a niche item, suddenly became a must-have for anyone wanting to emulate McQueen's effortlessly cool demeanor. Even today, more than 5 decades later, McQueen's Bullitt wardrobe remains a blueprint for modern men's fashion. Designers and brands continue to draw inspiration from his look, reimagining elements of it in their collections. Celebrities and influencers often cite McQueen as their style muse, proving that his influence is as relevant now as it was in the late 1960s. But McQueen's style in Bullitt wasn't just about fashion, it was about identity. His clothes reflected who Frank Bullitt was, a man who didn't need to flash a badge or raise his voice to command respect. Every piece of his wardrobe, from the boots to the trench coat, served a purpose, reinforcing the character's practicality and self-assuredness. And there you have it, 20 Fascinating Facts About Bullitt, 1968, a film that left tire tracks on the history of cinema. From its heart-pounding car chase to its influence on fashion and filmmaking, Bullitt remains an enduring icon of cool. If you love diving into this classic, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss more behind-the-scenes secrets and stories from your favorite movies. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.